It's a brand new day, Monday, the 6th of July, 2026. Another day to take a look at happenings in and around Nigeria on the Polity on Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Good morning to you and welcome. My name is Chisom Chinedu. Franklin Ebuka is here. Good morning, Franklin. How are you? How was your weekend?
Good morning, Chisom. Good morning to everybody. Talking about the weekend. Weekend was a bit, should I say busy for me? Because
busy?
A bit busy. Not really because I had a lot of things to do, but I was busy with myself. Busy with myself in the sense that I was a bit down.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I couldn't even do a lot, but of course, we thank God that it's quite better now. And then yesterday, how was it yesterday? Almost the same thing. I couldn't even watch all the matches played yesterday, but it's all good. And we're glad to be here this very morning for us to fire again to tell you what is happening in Nigeria and beyond. And here in Anambra State, we have a couple of things that we would like to follow up. Talking about what happened over the weekend. There was a video that circulated by Atma of an incident that happened somewhere around what's it called again? The Amobia. I think Amobia Nise dualized road. Yes. We saw a video of a tipper driver who, in a bid to cross from one lane of the road to the other, climbed the median strip of the road. And Atma declared him wanted, promising 200,000 naira for anybody who would give information that was going to lead to his arrest.
Oh.
And I think after about 4 hours, Atma announced that the tipper driver had been identified and arrested, his tipper confiscated, and he will be charged to court for him to answer for what he did. And that brought me to, it brought to mind what we normally see along the Enugu Onitsha Expressway, around the Ogidi Obunike axis. Like if you are to move from that very toll gate down to Onitsha here, that axis of Bidi Mattress Market going to Lake, you will see tricycle riders and tipper drive. What they do there, if they want to cross from one part of the lane to the other side, they drive into the gutter, climb it, and get to that part of the road. And each time I see this, I keep on asking myself, why are human beings behaving like animals? So what's the big deal that you drive down to where there is a U-turn, make a turn, and get to the other lane? But because of these our indiscipline, because of being in a hurry, and you climb into the gutter or climb the median strip just to cross to the other side of the road, and you are impacting on the quality of the infrastructure. And if it gets to wear out tomorrow, you begin to blame government. The government did not do anything reasonable. They didn't do anything with it. Now the government did a shabby job in this very area. And I keep on asking myself, why? So this tipper driver that I have arrested, maybe by the time he's done facing the law, he will learn his lessons the very hard way, knowing that we have a responsibility to protect public infrastructure that has been installed for our use. It's not for us to destroy public infrastructure. Rather, we have to protect them. So I must give kudos to Atma for identifying that very one and vowing to ensure that they get to follow this through. I'm not asking them to man people along this Enugu Onitsha Expressway around that Obunike axis. If they man people who are going to disguise, they'll be able to catch those who also do those things there, so that they will be able to smell the road and know and understand the gravity of what they do to our road infrastructure.
You know, the funniest part is that when you have this conversation with them, you start to hear, "Okwa just na, okwa nam cross, ordinary," and whenever we talk about Sena crimes, it looks like we are exaggerating. We have neighbors, friends, relations who've lived abroad. There are certain levels of insanity that would only take discipline and, of course, the heavy hammer of the law to curb. And I really don't know how we keep calling on the government to do better with the country, how it is, how life is. And every chance we get, we make things worse. Over the weekend, Saturday precisely, Anambra State government declared a cleanup. One major thing the government called for was desilting waterways around us. And while some persons complied, on my streets there was heavy compliance, some other persons were arguing about how the government has some other responsibilities when it involves environmental safety that they have not carried out. And I started to ask myself, when Techno sang, I think it was Rara, he said, "Forget about the big things. Let's talk about the small things." When we leave the small things and constantly talk about the big things, the small things that we can do as a people in our own immediate environment, in our neighborhoods, in our streets, the places we do business, we do not do them. And we keep looking for what the government is going to do for us. I don't know when we are going to get rid of this mentality.
You saw what I wrote about the dangerous rise of blame culture, where whatever government does, we must find a way to blame government for one thing or the other, even when we are the culprits. He mentioned the cleanup that government mandated. Yes, somebody could argue that it's illegal enough for government to restrict movement for us to have cleanup. That could be debatable. But when somebody says that government let what is worthwhile and focusing on cleanup, I think it's a very tame and irresponsible argument. I'm sorry to say that, because you see, whatever we do here on this very earth is dependent on the environment. When the environment cannot hold any other action, everything becomes a mess. Just imagine that you live in an area where you are doing your business, and because the environment is not conducive, and because the gutters are blocked, and there's rainfall, and the flood water comes into your shop and destroys what you sell, you still come back to blame government. The government failed to do what it's supposed to do, blah, blah. I don't know what is wrong with us, but I have seen that we have developed this mindset of always criticizing, throwing blames, even when government is doing the noble thing. We must find a way to dismiss what the government is doing, saying that this is irresponsible, government is supposed to do this. What is government supposed to do? Government has a Ministry of Environment that is charged with the responsibility of ensuring that the environment is conducive. And how does government ensure that? It's by doing those small things. And I'm telling people who are living here in Onitsha, any day the Ministry of Environment remembers Onitsha, that's when you're going to hear the bigger cry. In our case, I was speaking with somebody yesterday in Oka, and she told me that where they reside, that last week, Ministry of Environment came and gave them a fine of 100,000 naira. Guess what? Because the water that comes from the bathroom is being discharged into the gutters. And it's one of the provisions in the Anambra environmental law. The law is against it. If you come down here in Onitsha, there's no building that has the water that comes from the bedroom that is channeling into the pit. There's none. Everything is channeling into the gutters. So any day government remembers Onitsha on this and decides to enforce that provision in the environmental law, I bet you almost every building here in Onitsha is going to pay for that. And my friend told me that they paid. They begged and got tired and they had to pay. Not even landlord. So what I'm saying in a sense is, anybody trying to dismiss what government did on Saturday, I think the person is just trying to be cynical. If not, what happened on Saturday, if actually we understand the importance of that, everybody should develop that very culture of ensuring that the environment is clean at every point in time, not just until when government calls for an action, and then we'll begin to do it bit by bit and at the same time complain and grumble. Now, look at another thing that I also want to share. I saw somewhere where people went to vandalize street lights in name of scavenging.
They do it all the time.
Government locha the street light.
They did it to the second Niger bridge.
Went and vandalized it on a bakara. Are we okay? Are we actually okay in this very country? Because I keep on asking myself whether we are okay or not. I don't know what is wrong with us, honestly.
Well, responsibility. That is what we lack as a people. Government, they believe government is a no man's business. And so for every time an administration does something, you make a mess of it, the next administration will continue like that. But newsflash, that is the reason we do not grow. Every 4 years, the same agenda, the same manifesto, because we contribute to problems reoccurring and not getting to, we contribute to. I didn't say we are the only reasons. I mean, we understand that there are substandards, but we contribute as a people. Tony Mbeki, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Chisom Chinedu. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, the good people of Southeast. Good morning, in the Anambra. Good morning, in the Onitsha. Good morning, in the Osumo. Good morning, in the Afia, in the Onwaka, in the Nkozi, Denine, na Bamboko, Bodema. Security agents, also the vigilantes as we have, and then also we have those who are committed to doing good will. Just like Franklin was saying, I'm going to react to that point he raised, this blame culture. That's one thing, and it's affecting everything we do. We are easy to point fingers to someone when he doesn't get it right, but we look around what the ones we are doing, what can we say about them? But that's by the way. And we are back in the sanctuary of the Most High. We are back in our altar. We are here to do our evangelical work, our ministry of truth. It cannot be corrupted by anything. And more especially social media, frenzy, fuse, cruise seems to be the way now. People are bowing to social media pressure. For me, it takes us nowhere. And we are back here to do what we know how best to do. Today being Monday, and just as we did, I don't know how the environmental sanitation, how it went, because I don't know if we're able to make something out of it, how many drainages that were cleaned, and then some of these things, how we're able to go about it. Monday, July 6th is the day, and we are back to do the good work of the Lord. And we thank God Almighty for His grace, for His love, for His kindness, for keeping us. And most time, especially, we will not keep sparing the truth. We keep spilling it. And then the accusation of extra budgetary expenditure, according to IMF, which the candidate of the NDC has latched on, and also to pressure the president to resign. And so many other things, that is actually causing some disquiet and unrest in the polity. Just sit back and enjoy the program. We'll always keep telling you the truth.
All right, then we're going to tell you what the front pages of the papers say. And right after that, we'll dive into the conversation proper. Before then, Franklin, did you come across that story about Goodluck Jonathan allegedly being offered 500 billion naira to run for the next election to deplete Obi's votes?
I'll be honest with you. I didn't see the very story, but without thinking twice about it, I will tell you that it's part of
propaganda.
What I believe has been a orchestrated propaganda trying to push Goodluck Jonathan into the political scene once more, which I do not see him falling for. I once said on this very platform that eventually, by the time all these falls must have died down, we will not see the name of Goodluck Jonathan on INEC portal, because for me, I think that the PDP faction that has been playing with his name, are just trying to see if they can get a political bargain to show up their acceptability. So anything about Jonathan being offered this, being offered that, I don't see that very man.
I saw some reports of it being a lie too.
I don't see that very man falling for this thing. He has grown bigger than that kind of propaganda. And I think he
Absolutely.
has grown bigger than being forced. Somebody who, against all odds, because when he lost the election, people were telling him not to concede. But he chose the noble thing to concede to that very debate. So I don't see anybody at this point in time trying to harass him into going against his decision.
All right. We're going to start telling you what the front pages say. On our desk today, we have The Guardian, The Punch, we have Vanguard, and we have Daily Sun newspapers. On The Guardian, the banner headline is US IPO drive tests Nigerian fintech's governance, compliance strength. Find that on page 6. Reports alleging 500 billion naira offer to split South votes falls baseless. That's on page 3. That was what you were actually addressing a while ago, Franklin. 8.8 trillion naira of budget. Atiku Huriwa seek probe as Obi demands Tinubu's resignation on page 3. U.S. pledges close scrutiny of 2027 polls amid CPC designation on page 3. Let fuel prices reflect present market realities. Page 16. Rep urges suspension of NYSC reforms for wider circulations or consultations on page 8. Chief of Army Staff assures ongoing operation to rescue Oyera abductees on page 5. And this is exactly 51 days since those children went to school on a cool Friday morning and haven't since returned. PFIPC, pressure mounts for independent probe answers on page 6. All measures spill 125,000 barrels, pollute Niger Delta on page 7. Lawmaker calls for calm as fresh Taraba attack claims 3 persons on page 8. FG condemns killing of 2 Nigerians in South Africa, 1 in Cote d'Ivoire on page 4. Now that's some serious matter on the table.
Yes, actually, express one, because we're talking about the 2 Nigerians who were hit or killed. And over the weekend, federal government confirmed that 2 additional persons have been killed. And guess what? One of them was killed by a policeman, the same policeman that killed one other Nigerian some time ago. And the South African police is not even taking anybody into custody to question the policeman why he did what he did, because this time around, one of those Nigerians was tortured to death in a very serious condition. So we look at the headlines we have on Punch newspaper. The big story says 2027 candidate Saturday deadline puts parties under pressure. That story can be found on page 2, which writers parties rush to submit presidential, national assembly nominees ahead of INEC's Saturday deadline. APC uploads Kwara, Yobe, Imo governorship senate nomination forms. PDP submits nomination forms for over 200 candidates. Another headline says Senate meets Tuesday as fake agency budget row deepens. That story is on page 2. Different report I read from, that should be from Vanguard newspaper, that the office of the SGF once signed an invitation for this very agency to participate in an engagement with Canada. And this very much in somewhere too, I read that the Accountant General of the Federation was arguing that the agency did not operate any CBN account, neither was any money released for that very agency. So we'll see what happens, because we're still tracking this very story. FG secures $11.4 billion World Bank loans in 3 years on page 45. ICPC recovers 5.8 billion naira cash in 6 months on page 8. Killings. FG warns South Africa threatens tough sanction on page 8. Dangote beats US ships 757 billion naira jet fuel to Europe. That's according to a report on page 45. Robbers kill Ondo technician defending family on page 4. COAS citizens key to winning security war on page 8. And the picture story is the story of the governor of Ekiti State, Biodun Oyebanji, who visited kidnapped victims who regained their freedom on Saturday. He went to the Ekiti State Teaching Hospital to save them, where he pledged that the government was going to take care of the hospital bills and ensure that they get psychological support after their recovery. This guy, they spent 2 months in captivity. And guess what? Yesterday, Biodun was saluting security agencies, saluting Mr. President, traditional rulers, and for what they did. But community people are saying that they raised about 25 million and paid kidnappers for them to secure the release of these very persons who were kidnapped when they went to worship in a church in Ekiti State.
All right, then now let's move over to the next paper on our table, and that would be Daily Sun. Again, FG under fire over PFIPC scandal. Page 27. The riders are Turaki-led PDP demands forensic probe, official suspension. Scandal, a regular feature of Tinubu's administration. That's according to article. Maybe we'd say scandals are regular features of governance in Nigeria. I mean, in Nigeria, Frank, the previous administration had dead nominees and appointees, rather.
The thing is, government in Nigeria is like a hoax, whereby when we are small, there was this very thing that we used to watch. Like in split seconds, you want to see what is inside. In split seconds, it's off your eyes, and you haven't seen anything. You pay again to see it. You might pay like 5 times, you haven't seen what is inside. So, Nigerian government, that is the way government in Nigeria is. There is so much opacity in everything that we do. There is low level of transparency. I mean, there are things that ordinarily we don't need to be asking too much before we see that. But because people have this very mindset of government is a way to enrich yourself, so people find a way to do things that are untidy. They find a way to do things. Even sometimes, sometimes people make provision in the budget that is meant to be siphoned. They give it one kind of subhead, and it's captured in the budget, is approved. So if you want to probe, somebody is going to tell you it's approved in the budget, but that money is meant to be siphoned. So that's the way government at different levels in Nigeria are. And we cannot shy away from this very truth.
It's really sad. Okay, now we have another rider. Syrup charges NAS to probe 1.3 billion naira allocation. Nigeria faces $10 billion debt risk as banks favor government lending over businesses. On page 25, the rider is buyer's starving rail sector of credit. MPC official. 2026 Gabber election. Do not sell your PVC. Oyebamiji declares on page 28. Alleged 8.83 trillion naira in unbudgeted expenditure. Report false, misleading. Oyedele is speaking. The riders are Tinubu must resign. Peter Obi. Experts task FG on transparency. Pages 28 and page 2. Nigeria, 8 others account for 83% of global gas flaring worth $54 billion. World Bank. Pages 21 and 27. Seplat ends gas flaring in its onshore operations. Begins LPG production. Pages 21 and 27. APC primaries fallout. Governors aggrieved. Aspirants trade blames. Parties fence mending falters in key states on page 8. And finally, Uzodimma Lords Tinubu National Assembly overstage please bill. The rider addresses House of Lords London on leadership on page 27.
Okay, just a reaction to the APC primaries fallout. In Anambra State, I was even surprised to learn that APC in Anambra State is in fracas. There are now 2
factions.
Not faction per se. There are now 2 leadership. The one led by Senator Anosike. Somebody went to court to challenge that one chief was Sebo, and on Sunday they said they have taken over the party and they're going to reorganize the party. I don't know why they're having that kind of problem. I thought that with the election they did last time, they had solved the problem in that very party. Then over to Vanguard newspaper, we have the big story there says PFIPC controversy, how SGF's office cleared Ademi for Canada summit. That story is on page 5. You can see the riders. Troubling pattern of scandals now too frequent article. Presidency can't escape accountability over Bajabemila's claim. PDP. Serap asked Ababio Abbas to explain 1.3 billion allocation to fictitious PFIPC. Okay, you can see the picture story of Oyebanji, governor of Ekiti State, where he paid a visit to the rescued victims of kidnapping in Ekiti State. U.S. to closely monitor 2027 polls. Congressman Riley Moore is saying so on page 9. Xenophobia, FG condemns killing of 2 Nigerians, demands justice on page 6. NDLEA intercepts Malaysia-bound cocaine, NAV's PhD student mastermind on page 6. The student was actually arrested in Anambra State, in the Ekwusi local government area. But the one that stunned me was the grandma, who is already about 64 years old. She's a caregiver in US, and she came to Nigeria and got cocaine worth 13 kg and hid them in plantain pills. In fact, she was bound to go back to US, where she was going to sell it before she was arrested somewhere at Murtala Mohammed International Airport. I don't know what is happening. Initially I thought that it was things for the young persons, young guys who want to make ends meet from any kind of means. Now we now have octogenarians, we have adults, grandmas, grandpas who are getting involved in illicit drug trafficking. This one says the 2027 polls, parties rush to meet INEC's uploading deadline on page 8 of Vanguard newspaper. Okay, about the nameplate, Zamfara won't negotiate with terrorists, Governor Lawal. FG denies spending 8 trillion naira outside budget on page 9. Insecurity, soaring operational costs, other store ICT boom on page 11.
2025. According to the IMF, this omission makes Nigeria's fiscal deficit appear smaller than its actual borrowing needs and weakens fiscal transparency. The IMF stressed the need for more comprehensive budget reporting and stronger public financing management. And so, Tony, there have been talks around some sort of secrecy, how things are often shrouded in secrecy. And of course, let's start with understanding what constitutes off-budget expenditure. And this supposed interpretation of secrecy, is that what it really is? And is it actually illegal or not for us to have this off-budget expenditure?
Well, when we talk about off-budget expenditure or extra-budgetary expenditure, it means that spending outside the budget. And when we talk about spending outside the budget, it's something most governments are guilty of. We will not in any way, because most times people have seen the budget as just a formality or possibly a way to document maybe government spending. But nevertheless, it's another renewed call from the candidate of the NDC that the president should resign based on this issue of extra budgetary expenditure. For us, it is even an impeachable offense. Because if you go by our laws, at no time shall a governor or even the president or anybody spends outside the budget. But the Constitution gives them a buffer in the sense that when the budget is not ready, it becomes a case where it's not ready. What should be done when it is not ready, when it is not timely, it's a different ball game. But when it is ready and expenditures or maybe expenditures are made outside, it is a very big problem. We are told that the Tinubu administration has been involved in significant physical activities, including spending that the IMF described as not fully captured in official budget documents. In fact, the government, just like we know, has strongly denied such accusation that it does operate illegal extra or shadow budget, because another name for it is the shadow budget.
And I believe this is not the first time this accusation is being made.
This is not the first time, because if you look around, the IMF resident representative in Nigeria, Christian Ebeke, was the one who was actually, making the statement that the government public spending, which is about 2% of the GDP, roughly about 8.83 trillion for 20, was not reported or fully captured in the budget. This person who made this allegation says that this allegation can be proven that Nigeria has spent 8.8 trillion naira for 2025, not reported or fully captured in the budget. The IMF resident representative in Nigeria, Christian Ebeke, for IMF, because the person is speaking on behalf of IMF, he is speaking on behalf of IMF. And this for them has created discrepancy. I've never been a believer of IMF because I know what they're in for. But there are times if they raise genuine issues, we must look at these issues, but not to control us or always try to give us loan that will withhold our purchasing power, limit our economic development or economic expansion in a way that foreign economies will have supremacy over our own economy. But look at the reasons they cited. Large infrastructure projects and other expenditure executed off budget. That we have some large infrastructure projects and expenditures that were executed off budget outside the formal appropriation. They in fact say that Nigeria, though they have been taking steps to fix this anomaly by revising budget laws to incorporate such spending and improve reporting, but it must be noted that you do not spend outside budget.
Isn't there a question that is being left out there, especially by the persons who have pointed this out? If you say that there are projects, where are they? Can you point us to these projects? Or are we dealing with possible recklessness?
Well, if you ask the projects in view, because it was on the basis of this that P2B asked the president to resign, because for him, what he has done is an impeachable offense. What it means that he's taking the country for a ride, if this is proven, and what it means that he is acting outside the law, he's violating appropriation law. But the presidency, I know Taiwo Oyedele, the minister of economy, the minister of finance, they have come out in strong defense of the government spending. He defended this as standard fiscal operation, not corruption or parallel budgets. Remember, let's quickly let you know that Nigeria has a large budget. If I look at 2025 approved budget, is about 55 trillion. 2026, that's about 68 trillion. With heavy debt servicing, if you look at these budgets, there were capital budget implementation. In fact, we have had problems with our budgets since the president took over, because we see situation in 2025, we are told that the capital component of the budget was not funded. That's what we are told. And now, there was no mention of specific projects by this IMF officer that the government had executed outside the budget. But he referred it to as major government infrastructure project. But we know the major government infrastructure project is the coastal highway. But the coastal highway for me is mentioned in the budget. But if you look at it, you find out that those who are asking the president to resign, they did not even do their homework to find out the amount being talked about, 8.8 trillion. Where are the projects the money was expended on? Because the IMF did not give us specifics. They did not. They just let us know the figure. But we must also probe them. Fact check IMF is important, because what we do here is to fact check and find out that if there is any projects not captured, because even if one of these projects are captured in the budget, we are talking about the phases. A project can have a mention in the budget and the allocation for phase completion of this project mentioned. But if you do anything beyond the allocation mapped out for phase completion of this project, it is extra budgetary expenditure. We know very well that even Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway, which is about 750 kilometers, sections ongoing in Lagos, even Cross River, Akwa Ibom, but we have seen significant takeoff. Even the Sokoto Badagry Super Highway, which is about 1,000 plus kilometers, with sections in Kebbi and Sokoto State. Even the Calabar Ebonyi Benue Nasarawa Abuja Super Highway, Trans-Sahara Road, which is about 465 kilometers, with sections flagged off. Even Akwanga Jos, Bauchi, Gombe, Biu, Meduguri Super Highway, I think it should be about 439 plus kilometers, which was recently flagged off. From what IMF is trying to let us know, that some of these projects, they were specific allocations. But when government spends beyond specific allocations for these projects, it is extra budgetary expenditure. If it is in the budget that so amount of money be allocated to this project, you can't go beyond it. if you attempt to go beyond it, you must revise the budget before engaging on that. I think that's the point they are trying to make. But they are saying that in all of these, 8.83 trillion has been spent extra budgetarily or shadow budget. That's what the government, according to IMF, is operating. But just like I said, Taiwo Oyedele, the Minister of Finance, has said, no, that's not the case. That what they have been able to do is standard operation or standard fiscal operation anywhere in the world. He did not go into details to tell us what he meant by standard fiscal operation, because you can't just use jargon to confuse us. IMF has established a prima facie in this case that some of these projects were executing. The way you're going about it, it is not in the way these projects are mentioned in the budget. The allocations, we cannot be physically reckless. We cannot be. No country goes for being physically reckless. And that's what we are maybe experiencing. But just like I said earlier on, I would want IMF to be more specific. Let's know these projects. Let's know those who probably they go beyond extra miles. Even our National Assembly that should be doing their work, you see, they are sleeping. I'm told that they will be reconvening tomorrow, being Tuesday, to look at the Prince Adeniyi Adeyemi, the man who is the MD of fake agency, according to the trending issue we have on ground. The man who is in the middle of all the whole thing, that they will start investigation. Look at National Assembly. This National Assembly, I don't know what I call them, but the truth remains that they have been cooperating, even when the Constitution empowers them to expose corruption. Invite anybody.
So Tony, beyond the allegation or beyond the report that came from IMF and then the response that came from the federal government through the Minister of Finance, Taiwo Oyedele, I read through what he put out. I read it twice, and I failed to get convinced from what he put out there, because I was looking at the specifics in that very statement he issued. I didn't say that, but outside what was alleged and then what has been defended, let's look at what budget is in Nigerian government context. Do we actually spend according to budget in this very country? Because every year we make budgets, whether at the federal level or at the state level, but sometimes you get to see some projects being funded, yet they are not captured in that very budget. So does budget actually mean anything to us, or we just do that because it has become like a routine for government to make a budget every year that is going to guide the expenditure?
For me, just like I said, it has turned out to be a formality. It has turned out to be a formality. Even at the subnational level, budget has turned out to be a formality. By the time we get to November or December, you'll see some subnational governments rushing to the state assemblies to make presentations, to lay, and nobody asks question. It is somehow disturbing that we have heard a report that the entire 2025 capital component of the budget was not funded. And we've seen environments. You know what that means? Some of the things that we are not actually taking care of, or probably the amount involved, we are so much, you push it over to the next year budget, you also push the money as well. That is what we call environment. But nevertheless, if you go by our laws, Section 81 of the 1999 Constitution talks about the president shall cause to be prepared and laid before each House of Assembly at any time in each financial year, estimates of the revenue and expenditure of the Federation for the next following financial year. And if you go back to Section 82, if the appropriation bill for a financial year has not been passed by the beginning of that year, the president may authorize the withdrawal of monies from the Consolidated Revenue Fund to carry on government services for up to 6 months until appropriation act is passed, not exceeding the amount authorized in the previous year's corresponding period. You know, I said there are times the Constitution allows the president to make extra budgetary expenditure. That will be on the condition that the budget itself has not been passed before the beginning of that year, or in our own case, there is no running budget, because in our own case, we'll see situations where 2025 budget will run till middle of 2026. That's we have not maintained a perfect budget cycle. In United States of America, if such case does exist, government will shut down. You don't make extra budgetary expenditure. It's not allowed. It is not feasible. It is not practicable. It is not even practicable in their own climate. You know what? That's why sometimes you hear government shut down. And when government shut down, it affects everybody, except essential services. But even pensioners are affected. Workers are affected because of government shutdown. A number of things, because there is no breakdown. With a situation where the executive arm of government and the legislature, they're having loggerheads over certain items, right in the budget, how to break it down, how to allow these things. Instead of extra budgetary expenditure, the government will shut down.
All right, Tony, let's look at some of the other merits of the matter. First, the federal government denying this IMF information. Now, if the federal government denies it, it simply means there's no investigation being carried out by the federal government. And now let's look at the merit of Obi's demand for the president's resignation. If the presidency denies that this does exist, or what are the chances that this demand would mean anything? I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that there is such a sentence or a statement being made. And we know that it never really means anything, not just to this administration, but I mean, across board. As long as Nigerian government offices are concerned, it is till the tenure elapses, till death, or till the person is legally not allowed to be in office anymore, in terms of you can only run for 8 years, because some of them would even want to stay on, but because the constitution doesn't allow you to stay more than 8 years, they have to step aside, which, by the way, they do not totally step aside. They keep wanting interference by way of being godfathers, putting the persons they want there. Listen, it's an endless cycle of issues when governance is involved in Nigeria. And so I want to know what you think about this call for the president to resign. Does it make any sense? I mean, if the presidency has said there is no such thing, it means the presidency is not willing to investigate. So isn't this more like an academic exercise at the end of the day?
That's what it's like, but we must put them in proper context. Because Obi, this is not the first time he has called for Mr. President's resignation. I think in recent time, it should be the second time. In recent time, the second time he has called for Mr. President to resign. But we know very well, if you look around 2026, he has called for Mr. President's resignation multiple times. But then we are looking at the recent one, the most recent. Because if you look at that very IMF report, 8.8 trillion of budget spending. That's about 2% of our GDP. And this spending was, according to IMF, happened in 2025. How come these things happened in 2025? Where we are told that there was no release for capital component of the budget. So how come that 8.8 trillion was spent in 2025? From the report we've got from the National Assembly, there was no release because we are not able to meet up. Of course, we are so much engroined with debt servicing. But according to Obi, he was saying that this is an evidence of grand corruption, lack of transparency, and fiscal mismanagement. He argued that this bypassed legislative oversight. But you know, as usual, he said that the amount in question exceeded combined allocations for education and health, where he was highlighting poor accountability under the current administration, saying that the present administration has been poorly accountable to Nigerians. Exactly what we saw during the time of Buhari. Remember, during the time of Buhari, a lot of things happened. In fact, I am saying that every government, I stand to be corrected, seems to be guilty of extra budgetary expenditure. But if he had called for Mr. President's resignation multiple times and it never happened, and you are calling for his resignation again, it becomes more like a rehearsed rhetoric. That's what it's like, a rehearsed rhetoric. But you know, he is pushing it from the angle that the platform NDC will provide a better alternative. But it's political, no doubt, because we know election is coming up on January. Some months away from now, we're going to the polls for our election. But in any case, he may have a legitimate right to call for Mr. President to resign, but the person he is calling for his resignation, would he resign? For those in the presidency, he's making a caricature of himself. That's for those in presidency. They will not take him serious. And many Nigerians are so less concerned about these things. When we talk about budget, just like Franklin asked, what is budget? Do we even understand what budget is? Budget is that template, that book that says that we are going to get this money, we are going to spend this money, and where this money will go, these things will be itemized, written out. This money will go to, and it takes time for National Assembly to get the budget prepared. You will see where agencies of government, parastatals, departments will be called to come and defend the budget. At the end of the day, it becomes a jamboree. A jamboree in the sense that nobody oversights how the money is spent. And I've said many times, for us to have a better government, the presidency shall not be the only signatory to the consolidated revenue account. I've said it. And it's one of the things that will help us for accountability's sake. The National Assembly, the legislature, that's the National Assembly, legislature, the judiciary, and the executive, three of them should be signatories to the consolidated revenue account. What that means that no money leaves the consolidated revenue account, which is domiciled with CBN, without the three of them signing. If we can do it,
What is this?
It will change a lot of things in this country.
Darren, he's saying that what he said is not the truth. I know that in Nigeria, there's a site called GovSpend. That very GovSpend, if you go there, you are going to see that one is still about, tracking the expenditure, payment to contractors, treasury data. That's what that site does. It tracks this very expenditure. But of course, we know how government runs. Expenditures are made in different ways. And there are expenditures that we are not expected to be captured on GovSpend. And this is where the concerns of many Nigerians come in. Those areas that are not trackable. So if we're going to improve this very transparency and accountability in government, what do you think that the government could do to increase this very trust between them and the governed?
Well, when we talk about trust, it is very difficult, because when governments, like the recent thing that happened, Prince Adeyemi case, we saw what happened, where evidence points to the fact that there was such agency. But the government came out and said that there was never such agency, that everything was faked. But we've seen pictures of Adeyemi and the members of National Assembly. In fact, Adeyemi with members of diplomatic corps. We've seen evidence that points that this man had a budget allocation. And somebody is saying that he never existed. How would Nigerians trust you? An issue of trust is a situation where if you keep lying to somebody, you are not in any way trying to play smart. You are more like eroding the trust the person even reposing you. People don't even know that is the consequence. Trust is a very important thing, and I've said it many times. And now the presidency, because that's what you call them, because we must address them by their terms. When we want to talk about the executive, we call them the presidency. When we want to talk about the National Assembly, we can call them the National Assembly. When we talk about the judiciary, we can call them judiciary. When we want to talk about three of them, we can call them the federal government. But now, the presidency has reacted to this. And just like you said, he has given explanation. But Nigerians are asking questions. Many Nigerians do not believe. And you don't expect them to believe for any reason. You don't expect them to believe. Because you know why? This is not the first time. Neither will it be the second time. Neither will it be the third time. Neither will it be the fourth time this would happen. It has been happening from government to government, from time to time. It's not a new thing. Just like I said, I will be pretty much, to be either corrected that many governments, even from Obasanjo administration till now. But the question is the quantum, the extent of
does this do anything to our image?
It does a lot. It does a lot. The point is, we can strengthen our institutional capacity and operation and tighten the loopholes. These are one of the huge loopholes. When the president, according to the those that said he bought yacht, was yacht captured in the budget? It's a question. When people say that Mr. President bought an Airbus, a new airplane, was that Airbus captured in the budget?
All right.
You ask, there are some of the things that were not captured, but you see, government went on to buy those things.
So what you mean to say is that this is going to affect investor confidence in Nigeria?
It does affect everything.
Okay.
And I've said many times that it won't be right, because of our own peculiarity, for the presidency, that is the executive arm of government, to be the sole signatory to the consolidated revenue belonging to the federal government. That is the 3 tiers of government.
That's clearly noted. Now let's move away from this matter and take a look at some other things. We understand that the 2027 election, of course, which is scheduled for January, political parties are trying to beat the July 11th deadline for submitting candidates to the Electoral Commission. While larger parties say they are making progress, smaller parties have complained about technical challenges with the upload portal. There are also unresolved primaries issues, last-minute negotiations are ongoing, and of course, let's not forget that there are also some court rulings that have come up in the past few weeks affecting some of these parties. And so, these deadlines are under scrutiny as we speak, Tony. Some persons have questioned would I call it usefulness? Some have seen it as an unfair advantage for the bigger parties, especially the ruling party, while some persons have seen it as a sort of discipline line to put political parties in check. What would it be for you?
Well, for me, we are working with INEC deadline because remember there is a court's judgment that is subject to appeal before the appeal courts. And we have said before now that the fate of those who may want to upload after the July 11 deadline, their fate hangs on the outcome of that very judgment. We know very well that many of them have been given the access code by the INEC, and from the report we got about the APC, we were told that by this week they will upload Mr. President's profile. And remember, by the time this is uploaded, INEC is mandated by the law to make them public, And many people would like to know, certificates, qualifications some of these people may have. And the law also empowers anybody who is dissatisfied with their qualification to challenge that in court, in a regular court. So these things are there. But the deadline, 11th of July, if you look around today, is 6th of July. So it's more like about 5 days remaining. It is INEC deadline. And it may change if the outcome of the appeal before the court sells through. But for me, I thought INEC would have obeyed the judgment of the courts by removing anything deadline at this point, because there is no stay of execution of that very judgment. As much as we had a parallel judgment, but for the fact that that judgment has been served on INEC still insisting on the deadline makes the whole thing watery. It seems that INEC is not dancing in accordance with the law, because there was a judgment that says these things, the deadline will be till September based on the judgment we have, and it was served on INEC. Though we had another judgment that somehow said that it is within the INEC, but INEC must act in accordance with the law. These things are there. So for me, I don't see why INEC will rush and give July 11th as deadline when there is a subsisting judgment.
Do you see them giving an extension? Especially because of the technical issues.
Anybody can challenge even INEC deadline, and it becomes another round of fresh suits.
I know, but as it stands now, INEC has open portal giving people logins, and that is having a problem. It means that when INEC says we are not technologically ready to digitize things that have to do with our election, this is proof. And so the question is, with the network issues, the portal, the clumsiness from all of that, do you see INEC now in good conscience giving an extension?
It is signs of what to happen in the 2027 election.
Tell me about it.
These are signs. Because it wouldn't tell me that a body that has an budgetary appropriation of about 1.3 trillion or 1.1 trillion in some reports will be given excuse. Even when little fintechs these fintechs that have more customers, millions of customers,
absolutely,
would do things seamlessly. A body that is, how many of these candidates are we talking about? If you look around, these candidates, put them together, they may not be more than 5,000 or 6,000 across all the whole political parties. INEC is having problem to upload the particulars, or in fact, their portal is having problem to allow members of this political party to upload the particulars of their candidates. About how many of them? Maybe plus or minus 5,000. And look at fintechs that people are making upload on daily basis.
Second basis.
The thing is this. We cannot be deceived from time to time. And you wouldn't, in fact, look at the money involved. They know the technology they are using. They know they are using, I don't want to call them Uluwale technology, but the one, how they get it. Are they using a second-hand or a compromised version of these softwares? And we've said it many times. If you can have problem with uploading someone's pictures, uploading someone's certificates, credentials, if you can have such problem, it means that you are not ready for the general election. You are not ready, because it means that the portal, even the IREV, so much talked about, will be something else. And people are beginning to cast doubt on the capacity of Amopiton, because it is expected that INEC would improve on whatever they had before now. We expect improvement all around. Even when Amopiton has come out to say that there will be no more ballot snatching, that it's something that belongs to the history.
Is this an Amopiton issue? Or is an issue of a system that is comfortable with mediocre? And I am asking this question because we've often asked about the payer, of course, in terms of how INEC chairmanship appointments has been made. And of course, I don't know how possible it would be for Ampeton to just take the bold steps without any hindrances, because some of these bottlenecks we have come to understand are part of a wider conspiracy that at the end of the day make room for irregularities that would become legal at the end of the day, if you get what I mean. And so I am curious to find out if this is about Ampeton, or if is this beyond Ampeton. What can Nigerians possibly do to compel INEC now to have a strong technology-backed system? Now, beyond registration, I am talking IREV, I am talking accreditation, I am talking upload. How can Nigerians compel INEC to deliver technologically?
Nigerians cannot compel them, because Nigerians are also handicapped in that sense. If you besiege INEC headquarters, or if you picket INEC headquarters, it will not change anything. The most important thing, because if you look at the national or the serving national commissioners, there are 12 in numbers. Remember, some of them were appointed by President Muhammadu Buhari, and you ask who these people so appointed by the president, do they have the capacity? What capacity do they have? Is important, because if you look around, of course, we know that there are those that cover different geopolitical zones. There are those that also cover, something that has to do with maybe the particular position. So far, because we must these days subject INEC to oversight. I want Nigerians to monitor everything INEC does. Every statement coming from INEC, we need to verify their competence, and at the same time confirm if they stand to be what they claim to be. It's important. I have looked around. It's really, really bizarre from what we are seeing. People are losing confidence as far as this electoral body is concerned.
Tony, let me quickly ask. This challenge that political parties are having, struggling to meet with the INEC deadline for uploading of these candidates' details, is it all about technical issues with INEC portal, or there are other issues relating to the political parties? Take, for instance, issues of incomplete candidate selection, because we know that some political parties, as we speak now, they have not finalized their candidate selection, either by virtue of trying to substitute and do that. As we speak now, APC has not announced who is the running mate to Mr. President, whether he's going to stick to Shetima or whether he has a plan to bring in someone else. But for the likes of NDC, ADC, it's already clear. Then, are we having issues of internal party disputes after primaries affecting this very upload? Are we seeing court cases and factional crisis also affecting this upload, or is just all about these technical issues associated with INEC portal for upload? Because the thing is, because I'm wondering why it's going to just be this very technical hitch. Because what is required is a site that enables you to upload particulars of this very candidate. It doesn't require so much of a technical stuff for you to be able to do that today.
Well, for me, just like we said earlier on, there could be other things to this we are not seeing because we are not there. I remember INEC over time keep repeating itself with their technical glitches. If you remember during the 2015 general election, generally we had issue of smart card readers until we brought, beavers. Even when we brought in beavers in the 2021-2022 off-cycle election for the first time, because even in 2019 general election, we still use smart card readers, and we had issues. Even when we brought beavers, there was an issue. In 2023 presidential election, IREV upload failure because many people could not upload, but it went well during the senatorial and House of Rep elections. Everything went well, but when it got to the presidential election, it developed faults. I don't know if this fault is man-made or is deliberately occasioned or it is put in there for one reason or the other or for political reasons. The truth is, I don't know the kind of software INEC uses because they have acknowledged their technical glitches, their software configuration errors, device failures, server-related issues. But how long can we keep on with this repeatedly? How long can we keep up? I am saying that there are these problems that are just deliberate. That's my own personal opinion. Some of these problems, some of these glitches are deliberate. Some are not deliberate. But the problem now is we cannot measure the ones that are deliberate and the ones that are not deliberate. Because when it is deliberate, it is actually intended to serve certain purposes.
And even when it is not deliberate, Tony, should we be having those kind of lapses? This is 2026. Look at how fast tech is catching on. You just talked about fintechs. For heaven's sakes, these fintechs do millions of transactions every millisecond. And you rarely, I am not saying that there are no issues. There would always be technical glitches, but it's usually 1 in 1,000 or something of that nature, or even more. So the question is, why do we keep making it look like it's impossible? It has never been done before.
For me, if you look around, it's a case of on one way camera is here, and wrong. That's what it appears. The question is, there could be ulterior. That's why I've said issue of a technology should be handled by a company known for that. There are companies in the world that handles technological aspect of every election for some countries. Why can't INEC concede to that? Why would INEC want to superintend its technological advances? They want
to invest at home.
That is the point. The INEC should hands off.
No. Tony, give me a second. They invest at home when it comes to this tech, but their children's school abroad.
Apart from that,
they go to hospitals abroad. So why is it suddenly okay for us to be patronizing home when things that concern these stakeholders? They patronize foreign establishments, foreign schools.
Look at some of the arguments put forward by likes of Brendan Mokore that if you allow these foreign fintechs or foreign companies or foreign techs to come in, they will mess with our data.
Can we stop deceiving ourselves?
Whatever
data we are trying to protect, look at the millions of people on social media. As a matter of fact, our data is already messed up. That is why serious countries prevent things like some of these social medias from even operating in their spaces.
When he made a statement, I said that this statement is for those who are
uninitiated.
They are tech ignorant. When our data, just like we said, they're everywhere. But all the social media, even X, they have all our data. So is it the one that for election that they will be messing around?
Data protection has to be the dumbest excuse anybody would give us for things like this not to work.
We would not get anything better if INEC continues to superintend the technology being used for election. We will not get anything. And situations where we have not been able to strengthen INEC. And I've said it many times, it's one of the things I have been advocating, that INEC should be strengthened in terms of recruitment, in terms of capacity, in terms of operation. And I have given instances, situations where political parties or politicians appoint members of INEC. If you look at the 12 commissioners, they were all appointed by president, not President Tinubu, because some were appointed by Buhari. They have not served out their term. Anybody whose term expires now will be appointed by Mr. President. And he had appointed some in 2026. So what that means is that everything, centers around him. He appoints the chairman. He appoints the commissioners who do specific duty, even those who are in charge of technology. If I appoint INEC commissioner who may be in charge of technology, who may be in charge of voters education, I'm the one who appointed the person. What do you have in return? He who pays the piper, it takes the one of the ways to even strengthen INEC will be situations where the appointment will be made. If politicians should get involved, it means that political parties should bring a nominee. We know definitely it's purely partisan. If we don't want to get political parties involved, it means that it will be something left for. It could be a body that is trustworthy, because now we cannot even trust the NJC. Who do we trust? Do we even trust the religious bodies, even the Christian Association of Nigeria or even the Muslim counterpart? Do we trust anybody? Or do we invite angels from heaven? We cannot. Or even we say, let somebody with a questionable character, a lot of things will come up. So the point is, we must sit down and find ways to strengthen INEC. Once INEC is strengthened, judiciary is strengthened, the problem of this country will gradually reduce. Two problems we have in this country: judiciary and INEC. Once these two are fixed, because once we fix INEC, it means that whoever becomes the president will represent the interests of the people, and the president will ensure that the interests of the people reflect in every appointment, even in NNPC, even in police.
All right, quickly, we need to go on a break. But Tony, says the House of Representatives deputy spokesperson Philip Agbese has called on President Bola Tinubu to suspend the implementation of the proposed reforms that will be happening within the NYSC, arguing that the reforms require broader consultation and warns that some proposals could undermine the scheme's original objectives of national unity, integration, and service. And quickly, let's look at this call. And of course, if NYSC needs some reforms, where would you suggest they start?
I have said it many times that we are being cosmetic and we are being flimsy. We've been chasing shadows. We're talking about NYSC. What purpose do we want NYSC to serve? We must identify that purpose first. And immediately that purpose is identified, then we now look at ways to actualize the purpose we have identified. As we speak now, NYSC is purposeless. It's purposeless. We don't even know the purpose it wants to serve. At a point, some people will say reconciliation. Some people will say national unity. Some people will say national integration. Some will say it's gonna be more like empowerment. Some will say no, it's not empowerment. That it will be more like what you call a Sahid, skill acquisition and all that. So people are saying or seeing NYSC from different angles, from different perspectives. That's why it seems that NYSC seems to be at the crossroad. NYSC itself is a confused body as we speak. Even the purpose upon which it was created, as we said the other time, seems to have been defeated. We must clearly ask ourselves, what purpose do we want NYSC to serve, and work towards the ways to actualize that purpose. If we want it for skill acquisition, to be where people will put in their skills after, because I don't want to see NYSC to be platform for skill acquisition. We should start teaching skills in our schools. If it should be involved in anything skill, it should be where you test your skill, where the skill taught is tested.
Anthony, at this point, because now you have made a suggestion that first of all we have to identify what the people should be. The real essence of NYC is to bring about national unity and integration. And at a point in time where we had seen so many cries, people raising concerns saying that the aim has been defeated, and then government has come up with reforms that they believe are going to help to put NYSC on a new pedestal. And now we're having concerns coming from different quarters. And the issue it raises, first of all, we need to define what we now want the NYSC to become. Now, if it has become that the original intention has been defeated, so there's need now to give it a different dimension. Of course, we have to amend the act to give it a new face. And based on the way it is, should we consider making NYSC kind of a passage, a kind of a fellowship stuff, something similar to what UN does, whereby fresh graduates are attached to different institutions, and then government pays them for 1 year where they get to acquire skills. Within that very 1 year, you might be able to save money that you can use.
But we have these institutes already. They are running, because if you want to make NYC to be a fellowship program, some of these institutes will rival you. They will even take you to court. They will even ask that they want to take what belongs to them. That should not be the purpose, and that will be another round of argument. I've said many times that for us here, I've seen NYC for me, it should be a platform where skills are tested. And there are those who want to perfect their skills, because skill acquisition is a gradual and then a phase thing. You may have this skill, you may not have the other one. You must fine-tune whatever skill is it. Let it be a platform for fine-tuning skills. Let's assume there are ones you have. There are ones you would also want to acquire. There are ones you would also want to test. Let it be a skill fine-tuning platform. Because we've seen our curriculum has gone so bad. What we teach these days in schools, they are archaic, they are rustic, they are bucolic, they have no meaning in today's life. They are irrelevant. You will see somebody, you said the other day, studying philosophy, somebody studying anthropology, somebody studying humanities. These things have been faked. Any course that is not in any way linked with IT, if you want to study philosophy, it could be enhance AI philosophy. You know, there's a way, because you find out that everything will be tailored towards both intelligence, artificial intelligence. It could be expert system, it could be fuzzy logic, it could be anything. So letting you know that there is potential you can really lap on that very area to bring solutions to the world. Because the idea of education is to bring solution to a problem. Any education that renders no solution to a problem is waste. Take it or leave it. When people tell you no knowledge is a waste, there are some of them that are waste. Because it can't bring practical solution to problem. Because that's the idea of having education in the first instance. Bringing solutions. 1,000+. So, but the point I'm trying to make is, for us, we must define the purpose. And look at the foundational deficits, that is deficiencies, that could also help actualizing that purpose. Because our education is totally in a mess.
All right.
Lecturers, I don't know the criteria. Schools are springing from one corner to the other. In fact, there are those who will just arrange some, few buildings for them. It's a university. Everybody wants to, pilot university. Churches these days, they are, in fact, every ministry now, the next thing they want to do is to own a primary school, secondary school, and a university. But I think we have a problem in this country. There's a serious problem, if you ask me.
All right, then we are taking a break now to attend to some commercials. Coppers in the country earn 77,000, by the way, and of course, some of them still get paid by their primary places of assignments. But like you pointed out, impact is where we are still lacking. And until we are able to have a scheme where actual impact is made, both in the lives of the people who are undergoing internship or whatever you might call the training, and in the GDP and productivity of the country.
For politicians,
we still haven't gotten
NYC are used to rig election, because most of elections being rigged, they are being used. And you can see where they have been reduced to this level, where they are only used. In fact, the need for them is for them to be used to rig elections, to use them, to deploy them and have them during the elections.
Let's go on this break now, Tony.
Udala Radio, 104.7 FM.
Quality bread, Wendy's bread, for your family breakfast. Wendy's bread, Opa kitchen they do yellow. Wendy's bread, Mama Papa they like Wendy's bread, kitchen and do. Wendy's bread, even children they like Wendy's bread, Wendy's bread, and in town. Wendy's bread, get it better, tasty, we go sweet your belly. Wendy's bread, Wendy's your bachama. Wendy's bread,
Wendy's bread, tasty bread. You can contact us on our official address, Second Business Park, Enugu Road, GRA, beside Onitsha, Anambra State. We also have another branch at St. Michael Plaza at Tandy Road. Also contact us on 0701.
You're welcome.
The voice of Honorable Idens, Mayor Okulolo on the line, calling from Awada. First of all, I want to ask you, under normal circumstances, are they supposed to be during the election as either INEC officer or anything? Do they have, under normal circumstances, do they have a right to be used during the election, either for recording or for one thing or the other? This is my number one question. Secondly, I want to know the way things are going in the Western world, where something is not budgeted. Do the presidency or the government of that country have right to spend? Former Britain Prime Minister said that, and that's kind of country. And yes, maybe we are making a joke of it, but it's a very serious issue. In this country, when Buhari was the president of Nigeria, Buhari used money that was not appropriated for this super jet and all that, about 450 million pounds. Nobody signed that money because it was not even captured in the budget. But he spent that money, and no question from our National Assembly till today. I'm not even talking about the Tinubu zone, because that is why we keep asking this question. Is this a country? Is there any country that is supposed to be run like this? Even just an ordinary organization. You don't just run it without a budget and all that. But here, everything goes and nothing happens. And my problem is that we Nigerians, in fact, we are part of, we are the main problem. Because I don't see why all these things will be happening and we'll be sitting down in our home, relaxing, thinking that everything is well. Just like what is happening with FM Onitsha, the allegation upon him. That kind of allegation in our own government. And the whole, about 200 something million Nigerians, we know about this and we are still keeping quiet in this high court case. In fact, this present government is corruption. I don't know how to explain that. It's uncalled for. This is honestly, it is high time we must tell ourselves the truth. If we want to survey this country, all of us will come together to speak all this nonsense that is happening in this country, so that it will stop once and for all. If we don't do this, nobody will change it for us. Not even the National Assembly members, because they are here for their pocket. They don't care about you. So it is high time. Not even an election that will save us. Not even an election. This one we are saying that go and get your voters card, go and get your voters card, after getting voters card, and they will still read that election before you. You must do something more than whatever that they say that it is everywhere. I don't know how else to put it. But talking about what do they say about NYSC? Well, to me, if you ask me, since all said I don't like that particular institution. Honestly, it is just a waste of time. They're wasting our graduates' time, the time that they will use to make a very good benefit of their life. But they are just useless that time. For me, it should be scrapped. There is no amendment or anything that will reshape that budget. Honestly, that money that they used to pay them every month, they should gather it together and give it to each of them. They can make good use of it for their life. Thank you very much.
Right then. Hello, good morning. Yes, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Chidi Chukuma joining you from
Talk
a
to
very
us.
good morning to you, Dr. Tony Sabeki, Franklin, and Kiso. Yes, the call by our own dear brother, Mr. P2B, for Mr. President recognition is on point. He is not the only Nigerian. I must say that he spoke the minds of so many Nigerians. Even myself, I had called for his resignation even more than 5 times. His performance is embarrassing. It's a very, very embarrassing. And this country is so large that we don't want him mediocre to be on the wheel of administration. Because the people are suffering. The country is not progressing at all. Why should he remain there when he knows that he cannot perform? If he fails to resign, as P2D has called, not only P2D, but so many progressive Nigerians, I want the National Assembly to start preparing for impeachment. Why should he spend such a huge amount of money out of the budget? It is not done. It is a teachable offense. And we cannot continue to have all these things happening in our country when people are suffering because of recklessness of some individuals who have the opportunity to be there, taking the whole nation to ransom. It is a very, 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 very embarrassing. I want Mr. president to do himself honor by throwing in the towel so that we will have a better nation. Good morning.
Good morning. 0803-221-6973. Hello there.
It's a wonderful morning to you, Franklin, Dr. Toyo Sambeki. Good morning. Honorable Deacon, I'm bringing from Onitsha. You know, most of these things happening now is what we have seen for quite a long time, and we keep saying that even from the presidency of the past one, Muhammad Buhari, because you don't give what you don't have. That's just the simple truth. Someone that what you don't have, you don't give it out. In fact, you can't even know how to handle it. So that's just the problem, and the major issue we have here is those who are still drumming support for this administration to come back into power. I think the judiciary, the Abadio Assembly, they have done Nigeria more harm than any other assembly. Kekere Kun, the CJN, these men need to start. In fact, they are not standing anywhere because they have been compromised. That's just the simple truth. That's why we are where we are today. So I just want to say that if only Nigerians could, get their PVC, because this is our own AK-47. We are not going to war. We are not going to pick an assault rifle to fight the government. No, but your PVC can remove a bad government, a bad senator, a bad state assembly representative, a bad, House of Reps. You can use your PVC to remove him out of the. People say our vote doesn't count. I don't subscribe to that. If our vote doesn't count, why would they be paying for votes? Why would they be buying this idea of vote buying? So I just want to say that all these people drumming support, and we saw that they are deployed somewhere in Washington telling us the president cannot wear khaki, blah, 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 blah. And I love what Dero Farutimi responded, that the administration of President Bad have led everything there. He have made it that he have been able to see men who are men and men that would have gone to their grave with honor, being exposed. So I think those who are collecting money, they should keep going ahead to do that. But one thing is certain, I strongly believe that one thing that is constant in life is change, and the change will come. How it will come is from you and me. Get your PVC, let's do the right thing. Thank you so much.
All right then. Let's hear you. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
My speaker, good morning.
You're welcome.
This is Akamere. Yeah, and Akamere always go from Fiji. I want to react on this issue of INEC. The reason why we are always talking about this PVC, they are telling us to go out, get your PVC, get your PVC. But we know already that some of the elections we'll be having in this country has already been rigged. So now, what are we going to do? Because what I'm saying is this: some of the election in the past, like look at this one that happened in 2023. We got the information that Mr. Peter Obi won at River State, but that state was rigged. Although INEC told us that the president won in that River State, but we know that some of the places that Mr. Peter Obi won. So, but what are we going to do at this time now? They are calling us to come out with, come and get our own PVC. What in this coming 2027 election? Because if you are looking at what is happening, it seems as if the election has already been rigged. That what they are doing is for us to come out, waste our time, and they will just, select the person they want. And the thing is so embarrassing for somebody to vote somebody he wants, and INEC and court will just go and decide the millions of people in Nigeria their fate. It is not good. I don't like it. But let's see what will happen in this coming election, because for this election we know that this election is between Nigerian and APC. We are going to show APC that what they are doing to Nigerians, no one is happy about it. Thank you, my speaker. You are trying for us. God bless you.
All right then. Hello.
Hello, good morning. I am Okizon, calling from Okuta in Imo State. Mr. President has committed many impeachable offenses in this country, and he has gone scot-free. Look at the higher bill. Look at the case he has now. But he's contesting for Senate. Look at the 210 trillion naira that is in NNPC. Now that the case president has come up to give it under the carpet, and Mr. President is keeping paying. And Mr. President is now spending 888,800 billion outside the budget. It's executable position is saying. In other countries, this month is saying now. What are we waiting for? So we are going to do another election again, and then we share by being appointed by president, everything being appointed by president. This thing that we copy from America, can't we copy this thing from America? Power should not be given to the Mr. President to appoint any chairman. Because the president of Nigeria is the most powerful president in the whole world. Because the whole powers are given to him. These things we have to amend our constitution to favor Nigerians. Thank you very much and God bless you.
All right then. Let us head over to Facebook.
On our Facebook page, we have a Master BSJ who says statistical records show that Nigerians are underemployed. As the federal government should check various sectors in order to engage more people and provide sufficient funds for people to engage in trade training to improve our economy. He posted from Onitsha. Dr. Mrs. Imodebra from Ora says, how can Nigerians trust the people they elected when they have betrayed the trust? We are now having confidence meltdown, which is a situation of having little or no trust in the leaders and the system. We need a U-turn from leaders that all hope is not lost and change from the nonchalant attitude they show to the plight of the masses to recommitment. Then and only then shall confidence be restored. Sunday Amen says everything in Nigeria is business, from leadership, religion to politics. Those calling for Mr. President to resign will not resign if they are the president. Tell me that Nigerian president that has done better than his predecessor. He posted from Maba. Ikechukwu Christopher from Abadan Suba says, no government is free of internal scandal, but the biggest question is, what happens after the scandal? The certificate scandal is almost forgotten. This recent one will be the same. Tinubu is not fighting corruption within his circle, but for those that are in opposition party, the presidency will openly deny any clear evidence that is against them. Jacob Bishop says, this PFIPC saga will later die a natural death because this present government is a government of protecting crimes of being committed by its agents. This is a government of loot and shear. He posted from Accra, Ghana. As someone Obunna says, concerning the issue of corruption in this government, it cannot be stopped because they are standing on the mandate of their boss. I love watching you. Thank you for following. Then Omega Francis, also Francis Omega Namani, watching from Omega Enugu State, says United States to closely monitor Nigeria's general elections. That is a good one. However, my question is, what impact would that add to the conduct of the polls? And Namani Francis says, Nigerian problem is like the sun. No matter how rain fall, sun will always shine. Even as we are talking now, there's a problem somewhere waiting to be discovered. The Nichie Billion says President Bola Tinubu has powers to squander Nigerian money if not questioned by the National Assembly, provided he is. I think the construction here is quite faulty. Provided he is due. Okay. All right. So I'm quite sorry I won't be able to finish that because I couldn't comprehend what you wrote thereafter. And the person says Jonathan is a noble man, no doubt, but every average Nigerian politician is unpredictable. Young Goponwa says Nigerian politicians and other office holders. Now keep on saying this. Because if you want to write, just write in a way we can understand so that we'll be able to articulate and bring out what you have in your mind. Samuel Ozamina says he posted from Onitsha. If only we Nigerians want to tell ourselves the truth, protest upon protest would have taken place to force the president to arrest and sack his cabinet or sack his chief of staff, Femi Gbajabiamila. And the Morgan Namani says on the bribery scandal against Gbajabiamila, I urge the appropriate authority to kindly investigate him thoroughly, and if found wanting, he should be compelled to face the wrath of the law as deterrent. So these are the reactions we have on our Facebook page this morning.
All right then, gentlemen. Tony, what are your final words as we leave the studio?
Well, we have said quite a lot. Just like I said earlier on, I don't know why we left the good things we should have copied from United States of America in their own democracy.
Tony, a moment. Somebody asked questions. So if we can take that very questions into consideration, he asked a question about are NYC members supposed to be used for election duties, and he also asked a question about why Nigeria cannot copy US, and also something about Nigerian government spending outside the budget. If government has a right to do that,
government has no right to spend outside the budget. Like I said earlier on, it is an impeachable offense, but we have to establish this fact. For the fact that IMF said it does not make it true. I have said IMF should be more specific. That's what I said during the analysis. For the fact that they mentioned that does not make it true. And even the denial coming from the president, it was, for me, very, very lean. It was a lean denial. I didn't see any substance in it, because if you go to United States of America's Constitution, if you try to look at Article 1, Section 9 of the U.S. Constitution, no money shall be drawn from the treasury, but in consequence of appropriation made by law. So that means that from October 1 to September 30 each year, the government operates on money appropriated by the Congress. The Congress is in charge of the purse. Can we say that the National Assembly here is in charge of Nigeria's treasury? The answer is no, they are not in charge. But in US, the Congress is completely and totally in charge of their purse. If they don't make appropriation, government will shut down. No government spending is not. We must bring that one here. It's important, but that's by the way. You ask if NYSC members are they supposed to. The law allows INEC to have what we call ad hoc staff, and it can come from anybody. You know, the issue of using NYSC members started. That was in 2007, slightly, but it was more formal in 2011 election. It was very formal, slightly. Little contingent of them were deployed during the 2007 election. Not many, but in 2011, massively they were used massively. So that's how the culture started. So it is the duty of INEC to shop for ad hoc staff. It could be from anywhere, but they must have their minimum standard. So they decided to, maybe for one reason or the other, bring in INEC, the NYSC. But that's not the purpose why we have NYSC. And finally, I saw Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala where they were doing World Trade Organization's Day. I think I saw her dancing with Igbo masquerade, Igbo flute, Igbo this thing. She was displaying Igboism at World Trade Center. Many people are saying, why would this woman bring her culture to such a place?
What is she supposed to bring?
I don't know. If you go to social media, it's trending that you are the Director General of World Bank does not mean you are Director General of Igbo World Bank. So are you making World Bank to be an Igbo World Trade Organization? But the woman does not care. She's dancing to Ogene. Dancing to saying this. You know people who are saying this? Nigerians.
Tony,
that's the point. But tomorrow we say xenophobic attack.
Allow people who are small-minded to bask in their small-mindedness. Thank you for your analysis today, Franklin. Your parting shots, please.
Well, my parting shot here is about the cleanup that was done in Anambra State. I have seen some people's argument asking government of Anambra State to have a reconsideration about those whose shops were sealed, because they didn't come out to clean the environment. And the argument seems to hold water. They are saying there was movement restriction that very morning. So for some of them who do not live close to their shops, so how would they have been able to move from where they reside to the shops and open, and not open actually, and do clean up around that very area? So this is the area I'm thinking, let's go and look at this very concept people have raised. If they find it very germane, they should do the needful.
All right then. Thank you very much.
On the other side, I'm telling Nigerians that because sometimes when we look at what we preoccupy my minds with, like somebody talking about Okonjo dancing in.
Oh, we consider the Okona cheating at the burning house.
Is that a problem?